Solace.
Check, check.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting tonight. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, will you call the roll?
Trustee
Here.
Trustee Zora.
Here.
Trustee Council.
Here.
Trustee Sheehan.
Here.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Silva.
Here.
President DeCipio.
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Next up, I'd like to entertain a motion to move into closed session.
I move to make a motion to move into closed session for the purpose of discussing pending or threatened litigation according to 5 ILCS 120/2 C11.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion is second. Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner.
Yes.
Trustee Zora.
Yes.
Trustee Council.
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Silva.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move into closed session. We shouldn't be very long, maybe minutes, hopefully 15, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, we don't know, but we'll be right back out. So we're going to move into closed session.
Okay, again, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting. Thank you for your patience while we were in closed session for a little while. Next up on the agenda is a presentation of the fiscal year 2022 annual comprehensive financial report. Julia or Austin?
Can you hear me? We have Marvin Salasay from Forbes here. He is here to present our annual comprehensive financial review for fiscal year 2022 for the Village of the Grange Park. Marvin, you can go ahead and take it away.
So good evening, everybody. This is a big crowd. I'm normally used to smaller crowd to present the financial statements, but I'll do my best to have it in a good format to the extent that people will not be bored and it will be informative. So my name is Marvin Salaysay. I'm with Forbes. Previously, we're BKD. We merged with another firm, another big firm in the South. So they call us Forbes now because it's forward vision. That's the reason why that's the name. So good evening to the board of trustees, and good evening to the village resident, to the village management. So in fiscal year 2022, Forbes issued actually 5 opinions related to the audit. So the first one is the audit of the financial statements, which is now called Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. The next one is the required communication to the people who is in charge in governance, which is the Board of Trustees. The next one will be the opinion related to the compliance with the Illinois Grant and Transparency Act. And the last two will be the report related to the compliance with the TIF requirement of the Illinois statute. So briefly to cover the financial statement first, I think the board has a copy of the financial statements. On page 1 of the financial statements, I think that will be the audit opinion. So for the audit opinion on the financial statement, we issued an unmodified opinion, or on the old times we call this it's called unmodified opinion, or a clean opinion. So this is the best opinion that we can issue related to the financial statements, which means that the financial statement is prepared in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principles. I will encourage the board and the residents to take a look at the financial statements. I think this is posted in the village website, and it's also accessible through the Illinois Comptroller. So there's an opportunity for you to take a look at it. So page 1, if you will be able to take a look at page 4 to 12, that's called the management discussion and analysis. The management discussion and analysis is a summary of the operation of the village for the year. It's a summary of the entire village operation and the funds of the village. Basically, the village has different funds that operates independently. So basically, you have your general fund, which is being used for the general expenditure. So I suggest, or I recommend that the village board and the village resident to take a look at it and review it to make sure that you are aware of the operations of the village. The next thing that I would like to discuss will be the statement of net position, which is located in page 13 and 14 of the report. So in page 13 and 14 of the report, you have your governmental activities, your business type activities, and your total. So basically, total assets, which includes the village infrastructure, the capital assets of the village, is at 63 million. The deferred outflow of resources is 1.3. If you deduct the total asset and deferred outflow of resources with your liabilities, you have a positive net position of 34.9 million. The 34.9 million is mostly composed of your capital assets, which includes your infrastructures, your roads, and there are amounts in there that are restricted for certain use. If you will see the unrestricted net position, that will be 4.1 million. That is the amount that's generally available for use of the village. And then also in the financial statement, I think the biggest question is always pensions. So the biggest liability in the village books at this point will be the police pension liability, which I think is around 12.8 million. The net pension liability of the police is dependent on the investment performance, right? So stock market currently is up and down at this point. So hopefully when there's a consolidation going on the investments, on the police and fire investments, it will gradually, hopefully the investment performance will gradually increase, and hopefully you will see that liability decrease. Also, there is an IMRF for those employees who are not police, who are not involved in, who are not police employees of the village. They are enrolled in IMRF. The good news in IMRF is that if you can see on page 13, I think, you have a net pension asset, which means that the plan asset is bigger than your liability. So the net pension asset is there because, right, so you have a good return on the investment during the year, and the estimates are indicating to be on a good trend. And then if we go on a fund level, so basically the one that I discussed from page 13 to page 14 is related to the entire, what they call the entity-wide statements. So if we go to the general bank account, or I'm sorry about that. If we go to the regular general fund of the village, if you will see it can be seen on, or it can be viewed on page 17 and 18 of the report. Page 17 of the report, we have a good fund balance there of 8.3 million, of which most are unassigned, meaning to say that it's available for use. So to give a context on that, the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, recommends that at least you have 16% fund balance on that unrestricted fund balance, which is normally equivalent to your 2 months worth of expenditure. In this case, the village has a really healthy fund balance, which is 8.3 million. 92% of that is unrestricted. So that's good news for the village. And then if you take a look at the water and sewer funds in page 21 of the financial statements, those two has a combined net position of around 6.2 million, which is both positive. So it's not running on a deficit. It's running on a black. Running on black, not in reds, which is always a good indication that your water and sewer is performing just like a business. It has operating. It has operating income to a certain extent, which is what we expect for a sewer and water facility. It should finance itself through the regular water and sewer fees from the village residents. And then I think those are the major highlights of the financial statements. Let me pause for a minute if there are any questions from the board or the resident or management that I can clarify.
Does the board have any questions? Not at this point. Anybody else? No, continue, please.
And then, as mentioned, we issued a communication to those charged with governance, which actually summarizes the results of our audit to the extent that it summarizes the management and accounting estimates that we have noted, the financial statement disclosures. So basically, it's a separate report that we issued to the board. I'm not so sure if you have a copy. Right. So we are required by the standards to communicate this to the board on the results of our audit. So it contains the management judgment of accounting estimates, the financial statement disclosures, any adjustments that we have posted. So this year, I think the village lost, or the finance director left the village in the middle of the audit. Actually, after the year end, when the audit is going to start. So I'm telling this to Austin that it really took a village to complete the audit. But thank you to village management, to their patience, Julia, to your team, in assisting us in completing this audit. So we actually posted several adjustments, which is noted in page number 2 of our communication to those charged with governance. That means that we started the audit and the village is still in the process of closing the books. So these adjustments needs to be posted to make sure that the financial statement is fairly stated. And then we also reported on the internal controls. We have taken a look at the internal controls. We did walkthrough procedures. And then we actually noted a deficiency. So basically, this is just a note to the village board, to the village management that we found something that may need some remediation from the board. So basically, in here, I will read this because it's written fairly clearly. Currently, the finance director role is the only position with direct involvement in the financial reporting process, such as posting journal entries and preparing schedules for financial statement preparation. Due to the lack of additional staff with sufficient accounting background, this creates the potential for key recording function to fall behind during any extended absences or turnover. We understand that the village has and will continue to review its capacity to an assistant finance director to manage the financial reporting process in the absence of the finance director and aid in times of transition. So we're not recommending that the village hire an assistant finance director role. So what we're recommending in all reality is that I know that you have Austin, that you have hired. What we're recommending is that for a village your size, to find another person who will be an anchor in your finance department. It can be an accounting manager, a senior, just in case that Austin needs to take a leave of absence. Somebody will take over who knows the operation of the accounting department. That's just what we want to communicate, and it will depend on Julia, the village management, and the board on what direction you will take to that extent.
Great.
And then on this communication, we also noted the new standards that needs to be implemented in the future. The GASB, or the Government Accounting Standards Board, has been really busy the past couple of years. I think they're not letting the gas pedal. I think the biggest standard that will have an effect on the village will be leases. You have water tower leases. When I say water tower leases, these are the telecommunication leases that you have. I think there are plenty of those. I'm not so sure if there are leases related to equipments wherein the village is the lessee. So this applies to both lessor and lessee. So before, the auditing standard is just, okay, let's put this in the books, expense, income, and that's it, right? So now they are actually, this is in line with the international accounting standards, wherein you need to put those leases in the balance sheet. So it will be a receivable and it will be a liability at the same time. And it has a significant impact because it will require your finance department to take a look at all the leases, review all those leases, get those journalized, get those in the books. And we would just like to communicate that as early as possible to the board, to the village management, for your attention. And then also during the audit, we noticed some immaterial journal entries that we agree with management that they are immaterial, and the management agrees that it's not required to be posted. So that's in the back of this communication. So that's I think page 8 of the communication. So those adjustments were evaluated by management and evaluated by us, and it's not material to be posted to that extent. And then I think the last 3 opinions that we issued is the tip reports, which we issued an unqualified opinion or a clean opinion for the 2 tips. And for the GATA, the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, we also issued an unmodified opinion on that, a clean opinion on that. Thank you for having Forbes. Thank you for engaging Forbes to do your audit for fiscal year 2022, and hopefully you retain us in the next coming years. I'll pose if there are any other questions.
Well, thank you very much for going through this with us, because it was unusual with the leaving of our finance director, and then we hired Austin, so it was a little disjointed there, but everything worked out well, and I want to thank you for the report. I know that we've got some questions from the board. Trustee Watner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any specific questions about the audit itself, although I will kind of piggyback on President DeCipio's comments about the impact on our staff during a time, and as you said very appropriately, it took a village to complete this. And on top of that, this being the first year that you've, and Forbes has been involved taking over BKD, the level of detail that went in here, I would encourage, and I see a few faces out there that I know for sure would really enjoy the financial aspects of it and would really encourage reviewing some of this, because it really is an extensive explanation on all aspects of running this village financially. And certainly it's a credit to our former finance director and to our new one to come in to be able to pick up the ball and to carry this forward to support you in the level of detail that culminated in this extensive report. I also encourage all of our residents, regardless of their financial background, to take a look at this, because it really does get more informative than just the financial numbers. It really explains all the funds, where we stand financially. I'm not an accountant, finance background by any stretch of the imagination, but as the head of the finance committee, having a document that fully explains the position of the village, as a resident, I think is very reassuring to know that this village is being run very responsibly. And I encourage everyone to take a look at where our monies go and how they're being managed and how they're being spent. And I think that the document that you have produced here, while I know it took a lot of time and effort on parts of a lot of people, is really a worthwhile read for all the residents of this village. So thank you for your efforts, and thanks to staff's efforts in bringing all of this together, and Austin for you picking up the ball to bring this to fruition. A couple of things that I did want to recognize, of course, that your acknowledgement of the need for an assistant finance director type of individual. I know staff has tried to hold off on that for as long as we can. I mean, And the way that we were able to do that, of course, with the staff that we have and with the finance director that we had here before, we were able to accomplish that. But I'm sure staff will be having future discussions as we get into the budget process. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you so much.
for
Thank you,
looking at
everybody.
everything. Okay, we're going to move on now to public participation, which is why I guess everybody is kind of here, most of you. So before we go into that, I'm going to read a statement that was prepared. In 2021, after the ANS announced that its board of directors approved the property for sale, the village placed this announcement on its July 13th village board agenda as a matter of information, although the village was not required to do so. There, the village stated that the American Nuclear Society's building at Oak and Catherine had been zoned R1 single-family resident district since at least the 1940s. In 1976, when the school district sold the property to ANS, the village granted a special use permit to allow the American Nuclear Society to operate its headquarters in that building upon the condition that when it ceased its operations there, the special use permit would expire and the property would revert back to single-family residential use. The single-family zoning designation never changed. At that time, community members urged the village to take action to save the building or change the zoning. The village explained in an open meeting that if the owner or contract purchaser filed a petition seeking special use or rezoning or variation for the property, the matter would be handled pursuant to the process described in the zoning code, which would include a public hearing. Any zoning application would be considered on its own merits, but until a petition was filed, the village would not advocate for any type of zoning change for the property. To do so would have been an interference with the owner's existing property rights. It is important to note that only the property owner and a contract purchaser have legal standing to seek a zoning change. Subsequently, during 2006 hearings on the adoption of the comprehensive plan, the Plan Commission insisted that the comprehensive plan specifically state that this land would revert back to single-family residential use. Again, in 2011, when the new zoning code was adopted, the village confirmed that this land would return to single-family residential use consistent with its zoning designation. American Nuclear Society's right to market this site to the public as zoned for single-family residential use has been confirmed repeatedly. Those are private property rights with which the village cannot interfere. In 2021, community members contacted the Community Park District of LaGrange Park, urging that public body to acquire this site. The Park District issued a public statement detailing the costs of acquiring and redeveloping the site. In that document, the Park District concluded it was not feasible. The village has also stated that it is not interested in acquiring the property. McNaughton Development LLC filed an application to re-subdivide the property into 8 single-family homes and an outlot for a stormwater detention pond. Both the single-family lots and the stormwater detention pond are permitted uses and meet all village ordinances. The developer has not sought any variations or special permissions for the property, which might have triggered a public hearing. We appreciate the input provided by the community members in emails and social media postings expressing concerns about the design of the new homes, the detention pond, and demolition of the existing building. However, the law is very clear. McNaughton's plot of subdivision, proposed lots, and detention pond all conform to existing zoning and stormwater management ordinances. No discretionary approvals have been sought or are needed. The law considers approval of a subdivision plot to be a ministerial act, not a discretionary act. The Illinois Municipal Code, Section 1112.8, imposes a duty upon all municipalities to approve subdivision plats that comply with the applicable code provisions. It states, when a person submitting a plat of subdivision or re-subdivision for final approval has supplied all the drawings, maps, and other documents required by the municipal ordinances to be furnished in support thereof, the corporate authorities shall approve the proposed plot within 60 days from the date of filing the last required document. Village staff and the village engineer have confirmed that the proposed plat and other documents meet all requirements of the Illinois Plat Act, the village's zoning code, and the village's stormwater management code. The last document required for the approval of the plat was submitted on December 7th, 2022. Tonight's meeting is the last board meeting prior to expiration of the 60-day deadline for the village to approve this subdivision. Residents have asked for more community input on this project. If this site were owned by the village or the subject of a rezoning or a variation petition, public input would be appropriate and useful. But this is a privately owned property listed for sale since the summer of 2021, as to which no zoning relief is sought. The Illinois Municipal Code makes it clear that the village cannot legally deny subdivision approval for this site. Any effort by the village at this point in time to consider changing the zoning of this property or creating an ordinance granting historical preservation status to this property would constitute ex post facto legislation. That is, laws adopted after a landowner submits plans for specific village approval. This would expose the village to liability not only for failure to approve the subdivision plat, but also tortious interference with an existing contract. I know many of you would like to address the board tonight on this issue. First, I hope you will read, or you have read, the frequently asked questions, which provide background information and analysis. Given the number of persons wishing to address the board and also recognizing the other items on tonight's agenda, we will allow 2 minutes for each speaker. I ask that all persons wishing to speak line up at the podium and that the audience please refrain from applause between speakers. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. This is what we want. We want your input. We want you to be involved in your community. So with that, we will start the public comment section of our meeting. So whoever would like to get up, I ask that you please step up to the mic. And if you do want to talk, please form a line behind it so we can keep it going. But just please give us your name and spell your last name for us so we have it on record.
And I will give you 30 seconds warning when you're at 1:30 seconds.
The auditor promised not to bore you. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to read my remarks into the record because I feel very strongly about my opinions. My name is Herb Masson. I live at 535 North Catherine, directly across from the Society property. My wife and I moved here when we were in our early 30s, and we have enjoyed that building and its occupants for 53 years. We will be sad to lose that stately structure from our neighborhood, but are excited and hopeful at welcoming 8 new families into that same neighborhood. Lose a building, gain 8 families. No doubt about it, this is a really big change. A change that has been discussed off and on for the last 50 years. In particular, during the last year, since the property has been on the market. During that time, no one has proposed a practical plan to preserve the future, to preserve that building into the future. In my opinion, the time for further talk and study is over. And I support the board approving the Planning and Zoning Committee recommendations tonight. I want to thank the village for 2 actions really associated with this matter. First, for adding a paragraph to the 1976 special use permit that required the society to maintain the exterior of the building as they found it. They did that 100%. I was on the District 102 Board of Education in the 1970s when we purchased an all-girls Catholic high school called Nazareth and converted it into a co-educational public high school called Park Junior High. That transaction left us with 2 empty buildings, Forest Road East and Oak. Forest Road East was eventually occupied, but Oak, being much larger, was a real problem. Instead of tearing the building down, when the society approached us with an offer, we accepted the offer, worked with the village and the neighborhood, and came up with the special use ordinance. I also want to thank the village for adding a paragraph to the 2006 comp plan that clearly states the intent. Is that 30 seconds? Or am I done?
Finish your statement.
Clearly states the intent of Grange Park for the land use of the society property to remain single family should the building be sold. Those two actions resulted in quite an accomplishment, and for this I'm thankful to the village. The village preserved the character of the neighborhood and at the same time preserved the building which the community has enjoyed for the last 47 years. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Herb.
Hello, President DeCipio, trustees, village staff. I'm Michael Bogert at 306 North LaGrange Road. I know that we're here and it's kind of late what we're doing. I just kind of have a question, pretty much. I mean, yes, do I want the building? I do. And I was part of the 2006 Resident Steering Committee. And when you read the comprehensive plan, I know it's a long time ago, really, but that's not the point. Because, so then we solicited input from the residents and people came out. I don't know if it was over several nights or whatever. And they expressed their opinion of what it was about this town that they loved, what they appreciated, and why they moved here. Because some people move here because of the character of the community. Some people just end up here because it's close to the highway, right? But some of us appreciate the community, the walkability, et cetera, right? So my question is, 2006 comprehensive plan came out. It did represent what I remember people saying, the historic quality, the atmosphere of the town, and that we were going to preserve it. That was one of the goals stated. Now, maybe there was a stipulation in there about school. You know, I'm not that technical. You know, I just know what it said, what I read, what I understood people to say, and how I felt. And so my question to you, and you don't obviously have to answer it now, is, but how do we end up here? Like, did something change since 2006? Like, did we get all, you know, a bunch of people coming in saying we're not into this anymore? I mean, how are we now? I mean, no offense to Mr. McNaughton, please, this has nothing to do. I'm just saying for what it is that some of us are looking for. How do we end up
30
destroying
seconds.
a building and bringing in a type of subdivision that is more appropriate for a more modern community? So that's my only question to you. How do we as residents decide where are we going in the future? Like, is this going to continue? Do we not look at a comp plan because we're not really following that? Or, I mean, I know it's not a legal document. You know what I'm just saying? How do we know what the future holds for us in our investment? So that's my only questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill from Bill's Place. I'm here to say something about the video games. I explained my reasons the last couple of times when I was here why I need the video games. The deal is dead. I'm not going to say nothing more, nothing less. I accept and respect your decisions. But my complaint, if I can say, is this. I hear the last meeting here, some gentleman, he says something about me through you. And what he says is he can, what I should do to improve my business or to keep the customers or to keep my cooks or if I have to replace my cooks and this and that. And all this happened here with your approval. You didn't stop him to say, you know what, we're not here to discuss these kind of things. And I have complained about that. I feel embarrassed, I feel insulted, I feel wounded. I don't feel nice, I don't feel good. Why this gentleman has to say to you what I should do? If he wants to help me, he should come to me straight to tell me. Why in the village? And you didn't say nothing about it. Go out. It's not the right place to discuss. That's my complaint. That's why I'm here for.
30 seconds.
Okay, now about the video, that's okay. I'm not going to go in out of business because of the video. I respect and I expect your decision. Thank you.
Thank you,
But
Bill.
I'm very, very disappointed.
I understand.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Abby Cook, and I live at 602 North Catherine across from the American Nuclear Society. I actually started the petition on change.org before we understood kind of the scope of everything that you discussed at the beginning, President DeCipio, at the beginning of the meeting. And I just want to thank you for the FAQs page. That was incredibly helpful just for the community to get more information. Maggie, I spoke to you on the phone. All the information you gave me was incredibly helpful. And the only thing that I would ask at this point is to potentially, and again, I know that legally no one owes us anything. This is a private sale. The Village of LaGrange isn't required to do anything. The only thing that I would request is an extension on the 60-day rule to, I know we talked about allowing public input, but potentially like a workshop with the builder. I know that that's nothing that we can dictate, but it's something that I would just like to speak on behalf of the residents that, preserving the character of our neighborhood is very important to us. And if that is in any way something that can be done, that, we can accomplish, that would be great. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Twickler, and I live on Brainerd. And first thing I want to say is I appreciate all the hard work of the staff of the village as well as the board members. Getting back to the point, this building we're all talking about has been on R1 land for its entire existence, almost 100 years. This is an architecturally unique Art Deco building that was constructed in 1929. It's the oldest and the only historic large structure in the village of LaGrange Park. There were over 600 people that signed the petition. Some of the comments of the signers, and these are all LaGrange people, LaGrange Park, I mean. We live in a historic neighborhood, and preserving this building only adds to the charm of our neighborhood and draws people to what attracts Harding Woods. Adding 8 homes and a new retention pond will look out of place. There should be more discussion about alternatives. I care about the charm and integrity of my town. It's a beautiful building with lots of life left in it. Character needs to be preserved. We need to put Oak School on the historical registry. This beautiful building makes our village interesting and a town that respects history. This is a landmark for Harding Woods
30
community.
seconds.
The other thing I wanted to say is that it doesn't reflect the character of the 2006 plan. In terms of the plan specifically states that one of the plan objectives is to identify and encourage the preservation of historic buildings. And another thing I would like to comment on is the point that this detention pond is actually not going to look like a prairie that the pictures portray it, that the developers have developed. I've been in the field of native planting. I worked for the Nature Conservancy for 8 years, and this is a ditch. It's a 6.5-foot ditch with a concrete side on one side and 3 sides that are sloped 3-to-1. And the idea of getting prairie plants established in any short amount of time is not realistic. It will take at least 3 years if it works at all. And in the meantime, it will be muddy and slippery, and there's no protection for any kids or any pets. And the last thing I want to say is that there might be a contract between District 102 and the American Nuclear Society from the sale of the property in the 70s that might indicate that when the building was sold that District 102 has the first right of refusal. Before legally selling, this would have required a written request to be made to the District 102 by ANS to formally exercise or decline their right of refusal buying the building. This decision before the board should be put on hold so the sale of this sale document can be found and determined. And input from District 102 is they have never been approached for their right to buy the building back. In addition,
Donna, I'm going to have to stop you. You're way over.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm
All right.
sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
Hello. My name is Mark Cook. I'm a local resident of the project. I grew up in the area, since settled down here. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for providing all the FAQ answers around the project and explaining the process and everything. I think that's been very helpful to everybody. I'm not here to say that the village should intervene in any private or commercial transactions or risk any litigation. I'm definitely aware of the different interests and limitations between the seller of the property, the buyer of the property, and the village and everyone's roles, particularly that the village is just ensuring that the builder comply with zoning and building requirements. However, I just want to, I guess, given the scale of the project and the impact within the community, would like to request a potential delay of the vote in order to request that the developer provide public input, or at a minimum that the village informally request the developer provide public involvement in the project, at least a workshop or some sort of outreach event. Obviously it doesn't have to be through formal channels, but at least express through the village that the community is very much engaged and interested. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rick Oland. I live right next to the Cooks or across the street. And first of all, I want to thank Mr. President for, a thoroughly exhaustive history. Appreciate your position, and I'm not here to try to change it at all. What I'm here for is, I wonder, is there any other opportunity that the village zoning commission and the approvals that go in place, is there any opportunity here that they could look at, is this a chance to revise the way they look at buildings? I mean, when is the last time 8 buildings have been put in one place on one corner? All right, and I don't know anything about McNaughton in terms of what job they'll do, but what if we look at those 8 homes and we're done, and we go, what the hell happened here? All right, especially in this economy, 68% of contracts in the last quarter were canceled. Interest rates are going up, and these are notorious times for contractors to be in deep trouble. So I'm not saying anything about McNaughton, but contractors go under. The last thing we want to see is looking at a structure that's been completely demolished, and we're looking at that for 3 or 4 years. So what can the zoning commission do in terms of structure about many homes are going up now?
30
and
seconds.
You look at those homes and you look at them and there's like, where's the yard? It's all property structures and there's not open space. Second thing, last thing. I mean, there's examples in Brookfield and Oak Park where they have taken those historic structures and they've made condos out of them or townhouses out of them. They preserved the original structure. Has McNaughton ever considered that? Or another builder considered that? Or would the American Nuclear Society, to preserve the history of this, consider that?
Time.
I'd like to know the answer to that before I leave today, if that's even been addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oland.
My name is Roger Huddleston. I live at 611 North Brainerd. There's been a lot of discussion around this building, and to say that there haven't been any other offers or proposals is not entirely accurate. The Nuclear Society actually had a full price offer from another investing group that intended to repurpose the building as a school for special needs children. For a variety of reasons, this didn't work out. But had the village chosen to work with that investor group and the Nuclear Society on that, this historic structure would have been preserved and also preserved the character of our community. Rather than working with that group, the village has now chosen to wash their hands of this project and push this development through without any input from the residents. It's been made clear that the village is exposed to legal liability by not approving the documents. But I would ask, does the board represent the residents or an outside developer? Is the comprehensive plan a meaningful document, or is it just lip service? I would argue the board does have a choice, and perhaps a vote of no and a lawsuit is the cost of representing our community and upholding the principles of the comprehensive plan. The type of development that's proposed belongs in Huntley not LaGrange Park.
Yes. Sir, could you please give us your name again and spell, please?
Roger Huddleston, Huddleston.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Gregory Adams. I live at 520 North Ashland Avenue. And I'd like to thank the board for all the hard work that you do for our wonderful village. And because we're tight on time tonight, I'll just say if anybody happens to agree with what I'm saying, maybe show your support by nodding your head simply because I'm just one person, but I think there are other people that might agree with me. When I asked the board to uphold Ordinance 914 and not allow video gambling in the village of LaGrange Park. My wife and I have been homeowners in LaGrange Park for 23 years. And you know, when we bought into this community, we weren't just buying a house or a structure, we were buying into the community in its entirety, right? We love the old houses, but we love the school district. We love the library. We love all of the businesses that are in this community that are within easy walking distance. And when we bought into this community, none of the businesses were casinos, off-track betting facilities, or any gambling institutions of any kind. That's what we bought into. And so we're trusting the board to continue to make decisions on our behalf that will protect the value of our properties, not do anything to, you know, damage the value of our properties. If you look at the list of communities in Cook County that allow or prohibit video gambling, I think it's clear where the high property values are. And you know, in closing, 2013, the American Psychiatric Association reclassified gambling disorders from a compulsion to an addiction, and I don't want to live in a village that's going to profit off the addictions of our friends and neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, it's kind of scary up here with everybody looking at you. So, I am a mom, and I see the overcrowding in the schools.
Ma'am, what is your name?
Oh, my name is Debbie Drolinga, and I live at 745 North Spring Avenue.
We didn't get that at all. I'm sorry, slow it down a little bit.
Droling, I'm nervous. Debbie Drolinga, and I live at 745 North Spring Avenue in LaGrange Park.
You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
It's scary up here. So anyway, I am a single mom, and I see the overcrowding in the schools, all the schools in our district. Park, you know, there hasn't been so many kids. Second grade has got 5 classes. There used to be 4. There's 5. Now that's going to keep going and keep going and keep going. Park is overfull with kids. We have the opportunity to bring back this school. There are groups out there that want to buy this building. There were 5 bids. School wasn't even a part of it. They don't even know it was for sale. According to what I just found out, is that there was an agreement with American Nuclear Society and District 102 that if it was ever sold again, they would have the opportunity to say, okay, here's our bid, or say no. But there had to have been a letter stating that they didn't want the building. I just talked to the superintendent of District 102. They had no clue that this building was for sale, and they would have put a bid in. Now, there are 5 bids that could have repurposed this building for millions of dollars and put millions of dollars in it. But please, please delay it so we can bring paperwork to your attention. That's all I got to say.
Wasn't that hard?
It's still scary up here.
Hi. Hello, I'm Patty Conway. I live at 548 North Kensington, directly across the street from the Nuclear Society, and we have been there for 35 years. We have loved our neighborhood. and it is a great community. An 8-home subdivision is going to change the feel dramatically. I understand the village has a concern regarding their role in intervening here or interfering. We're asking, the residents are asking for a voice. We're not determining that we're asking you to consider your community. Hear us out. This is not in the aesthetics of where we've raised our family. My understanding in reading the documents is that the application approval is contingent on the approval of this ordinance. That the sale is pending only if this ordinance is passed. So if there could be other consideration, and I want to piggyback on somebody else's earlier comment about the process. I know that last meeting, when I asked the McNaughton builder, he said demolition might start as early as April or May. And he projected that
30
the 8
seconds.
homes would go up within 2 years. That doesn't sound reasonable. I'm not a builder, but that doesn't sound reasonable at all. And when somebody said earlier about all of the delay in product and the supply chain issues, I certainly hope that that McNaughton Builders, if this goes through, that there is a very articulate plan for leaving the building intact until everything is lined up. And if the demolition can come down and then, materials are ordered. If it sits stagnant, it'll be a real eyesore for our entire community. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, anyone else care to address the board? Okay, moving on, we'll go to the consent agenda. Megan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes. 1, village board meeting, November 22nd, 2022. 2, closed session, November 22nd, 2022. 3, village board meeting, December 13th, 2022. 4, village board work session, January 10th, 2023. B, action, video gaming ordinance, motion to uphold ordinance 914, an ordinance prohibiting video gaming for the village of LaGrange Park. C, action, accounts payable and payroll summary, motion 1, to authorize the president and chairperson of the finance committee to sign the register for bills and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. And motion 2, to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and the next village board meeting, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its next meeting.
Thank you, Megan. Would any trustee care to amend the consent agenda as presented? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
I need
A motion to approve in a second.
Second.
Second. Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Council? Yes. Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Before we move on to Julia's report, or village manager's report, Trustee Lautner would like to make some comments.
Mr. President and board and residents, we just approved the consent agenda. And I know item A and C are pretty straightforward, pretty similar to what we do every month. Item B, which was regarding the action that we just approved to prohibit video gaming for the village of LaGrange Park, it really represented a lot of time and effort, input, work by our staff, again, resident feedback to come to this conclusion. And I think this is a very important decision that I didn't want to just gloss over very lightly. And obviously, a couple individuals made comments about it this evening. And I just wanted to point out I'll say the importance and the level of work that was behind all of this coming to this final decision. I think it is a key thing for the village to keep in mind. So A and C were very straightforward, but B represents a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of feedback and input and research by a lot of individuals, both in staff and the villages as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and point out, for the people that are here in the audience and the board, that it's not lost on us, and the appreciation for the effort that went into bringing this to a final vote. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Trustee Lautner. Okay, moving on, Village Manager's report. Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just one item to report this evening. The village was recently notified that our application to CMAP's call for projects was successful. CMAP will be partnering with the Village of LaGrange Park to complete an ADA self-evaluation and transition plan, which will identify existing programs, services, and facilities and policies that require changes in order to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And with that update, I have nothing further to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, Administration Committee, Trustee Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. The administration report is as follows. The State of the Village reception. The village is hosting a State of the Village reception on Monday, February 6th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at Post 031. Community members are invited to drop in and join officials and staff for a recap of the village's accomplishments over the past year. At the reception, we will preview a special State of the Village video presentation, which will then be available on the village's website and on social media. The village offices will be closed on Monday, February 20th in observance of President's Day. Regular office hours will resume on Tuesday, February 21 at 9 a.m. The HELP program. The village is once again offering its Help Everyone in LaGrange Park HELP program this winter to connect older adult residents and persons with disabilities with volunteers who are offering snow shoveling services. LaGrange Park residents who request assistance will be provided a list of available volunteers and are responsible for contacting volunteers and scheduling their services. Contact the village representative, Sandy Bakelich, at 708-354-0225 to sign up for the program. Volunteer applications and resident request forms are also available on the village's website. Village news. Residents are encouraged to sign up for the village's weekly electronic newsletter, also known as e-briefs, to stay up to date on important local news. E-briefs includes regular updates to keep residents informed of construction projects, community and economic development news, and much more. To subscribe, visit the village's website, navigate to the How Do I page, and select Sign Up for E-briefs newsletter. And the second item, Mr. President, is the purpose is to approve travel expenses for the IML Legislative Conference and Springfield inauguration. General background. The Local Government Travel Expense Control Act mandates that a local government's corporate authorities must approve by roll call vote all travel expenses by the corporate authorities. On December 2nd and 3rd, President DeCipio attended the IML Legislative Conference. Additionally, on January 11, President DeCipio attended the inauguration ceremony in Springfield. As required under the Act, travel expenditures for these events are itemized on the attached travel forms. Once approved by the village board, staff will process expenditures in accordance with the village's travel expense policy adopted by the board in January of 2017. The action requested is this. This item is for discussion and action at tonight's board meeting. The motion reads as follows. Motion to approve travel expenses in the amount of $186.67 for attending the 2022 IML conference in Chicago, Illinois, and 2, to approve travel expenses in the amount of $192.66 for attending the inauguration ceremony in Springfield, Illinois.
Second.
A motion is second. Discussion. Trustee Council.
Mr. President, I have no discussion. This is a regular expense that we are obligated to fund
I have full approval for this.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Moving on to Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the Building Department activities for December 2020. Estimated construction costs related to permits for the month were just over $12 million, approximately 5 times the estimated cost for December of 2021. This was due to various permits issued related to the Plymouth Place redevelopment project. The total estimated construction costs related to permits in 2022 were just over $41 million. 132 inspections were conducted this past December compared to 146 in December 2021. Only 1 inspection was not approved. 1,917 inspections were conducted in 2022 compared to 1,910 in 2021. 62 were not approved. A final engineering inspection took place for 635 North Brainerd. Hancock identified 2 changes that needed to be made to the site regarding a downspout discharge. Staff participated in discussions with Nazareth regarding a proposal to replace the baseball field with turf and construct new safety netting at the field. ComEd was able to secure a transformer for new Andes and began installation. As such, all utilities and fire protection systems were inspected and placed in service, and various other final inspections were completed, and Andes was opened earlier this month. Staff met with the general contractor at Happier Now to discuss the location and design of the dumpster enclosure and the new front door design. Staff reviewed a permit application and documents for the installation of new security shutters for the front side door at Cork and Keg Spirits. And that concludes my report. I have 1 item for discussion and action. McNaughton Development is the applicant in seeking to develop 8 new single-family homes and 1 detention pond at 555 North Kensington Avenue. The subject property is located in the R1 single-family residential zoning district and is bounded by Oak Avenue to the north, Catherine Avenue to the east, and Kensington Avenue to the west, and single-family homes to the south. The property is approximately 1.44 acres in area and is improved with a 27,000 square foot building and surface parking lot. The subject property is currently owned by the American Nuclear Society, ANS, an international non-profit organization, moved its headquarters to the former Oak School at the subject property in 1977. The schoolhouse was built in 1929 and served as a neighborhood school for 7th and 8th graders until Park Junior High opened in 1975. Oak School was purchased by ANS in 1976, at which time the village issued a special use permit to ANS to operate in the building originally designed and use a tax-supported public school. Per the 1976 ordinance, the special use permit expired when ANS ceased its operations. The subject property has always been zoned R1 single family, not to be reclassified or rezoned, and should remain single family residential district. It being the express intent of the comprehensive plan that the parcel revert to single family residential was upon expiration of the special use permit or discontinuance of the existing use by ANS. ANS listed the subject property for sale in 2021. The applicant and ANS have entered into an agreement for the sale and purchase of the subject property. Currently, there are 10 existing lots platted on the subject property. In order to redevelop the property with single-family homes and also meet the village's stormwater management requirements, the applicant has submitted an application for subdivision to re-subdivide the land into 8 lots for single-family homes and 1 outlet for stormwater detention. The applicant is not seeking any special approval, such as a variation or special permit. The village has no subdivision requirements other than its bulk requirements, minimum lot size, lot width, and depth. In order to be approved, the plat of subdivision must meet 1, all zoning requirements in the village municipal code, 2, any applicable stormwater requirements, and 3, the requirements of the State of Illinois Plat Act. The applicant's proposed subdivision plat meets all the village bulk and stormwater management requirements and fully complies with the requirements of the Illinois Plat Act. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the approval of the subdivision by a vote of 5-2 on December 14, 2022. After the Village Board work session meeting on January 10th, where the subdivision request was discussed, the village received several inquiries from residents about the proposed project. The village was also made aware of various conversations taking place on social media regarding the sale of the ANS property. In an effort to provide a greater understanding of the proposed project and its status, staff developed a frequently asked questions FAQ document that was posted to the village's website and shared on social media. Staff concurs with the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance approving a plat of subdivision for 555 North Kensington Avenue case number 22-009.
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll have discussion. Trustee Zora, I'm going to take 2 minutes though and ask Mr. McNaughton and his representative if you have anything to say in response to some of the questions that maybe have been raised.
No, I do not.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Staff, any staff have any additions they'd like to make in response to any of the questions? Seeing none? Okay. Trustee Zora, continue, please. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I wanted to start by saying thank you all for coming tonight and voicing your opinions. This is important to all of us, regardless of the outcome. I wanted to say I've discussed this site plan every day since the previous board meeting on the 10th. And as President DeCipio said, the village does not own or have an affiliation with this property, but I do encourage all of you and the 600 residents that signed the petition circulating to reach out to McNaughton and ANS to voice your concerns regarding the site and the development of the site. I stated my opinions at the January 10th board meeting, and they have not changed. I have nothing more to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, a very difficult topic for us to all consider, and since I have begun considering this for some time when it first came to our attention after the approval of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Looking at the FAQs that our staff put together and considering all the correspondence and feedback and input from the residents, I reflect a little bit on the almost 45 years that my family have lived here, and you know, thinking back at the school at the time when we first moved here and wondering what the heck goes on in that building. I mean, I honestly went out there one time at night to look to see if it glowed at night. Had no idea what ANS did in that building. And you know, kids wanted to obviously start playing in the parking lots, which we wanted to check out a little bit more. What do they actually do in that building? And later had the opportunity to actually go inside, and I think there might be some people here in this room that were part of the park board at that point to take a look at it when it was obvious that it might become for sale. When the Park District was considering putting up a new rec center, and this was in the mid-90s, and got inside the building and had an opportunity, not that I'm an expert on building conditions, but did experience the quality of what was inside and what might be required to get it into a condition to maybe turn it into something that the Park District might consider. And decision obviously at that time was it was just too much, more than we could handle for sure. So obviously a few years later, with the leadership of several others that are in the room tonight with the comprehensive plan, took a look at it again, and through that time it's always been reiterated what it would return to if it was no longer part of the American Nuclear Society. So considering all of that, considering all of the facts of the request, and taking a look at what the Planning and Zoning Committee people went through, attended those meetings, and their review, understanding that all of the laws have been met, all of the requirements that this village has set forth have been met to the T, knowing the reputation of the developer, who is an outstanding reputation in their industry and this community as well. Looking at all those factors, I don't think that the question comes down to, do we want to save Oak School? I mean, yes, I love the history of it. It was built the same year my house was built. I very much enjoy the architecture and the character of this village. It's kept our family here for this number of years. But when it comes down to, do we save Oak School, or do we put the village of LaGrange Park into a position of litigation? I think that the role that I'm serving here as a trustee is to try to look at all those factors, and with that, I would come to the conclusion that I would support this ordinance.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, thanks to staff for putting together the FAQ, being available pretty much 18 hours a day to answer our emails or the residents. Nice job. Also the residents, it's really nice to see a packed house. We appreciate the company. It means you guys are all passionate about this great town that we live in. I too served on the comprehensive plan in 2006 with some fine individuals like Ms. Bogert and Mr. Masson. And it was, like Trustee Lautner had said, it was pretty clear at that time to keep it single family or the R1 district. As I stated at the January 10th meeting, I did have concerns about the detention pond. I hope that's dealt with correctly, and I'm sure with Mr. McNaughton, the houses you built in Burr Ridge and Hinsdale, and including up until Heatherdale, I'm sure they'll be top quality, and I'm sure that, you know, you guys would leave it like you live next door to it, and that's my hope, and I'm sure the hope of many neighbors. I do have a concern tonight. A couple residents that brought up that, which I was unaware of, and I'm sure the rest of the board, I'm not sure that they knew either. But what is it doesn't concern LaGrange Park, but what is this I'm hearing of the state of first refusal? Kathy, could you explain that?
Sure. A right of first refusal is something that it's not binding if it's in a contract. It has to be recorded against the property in a deed. So people are saying, I haven't seen any documentation to support this, but they're saying that somehow there's a right of first refusal that exists. Notice of this subdivision application was given to both superintendents of District 102 and 204. They were notified that McNaughton was subdividing this property, so they had the right to come in and assert rights. Whether or not somebody has a private property right of first refusal is a matter to be dealt with between McNaughton and American Nuclear Society. It would, if it's truly recorded against the property, then it would come up in the title report and they'd have to deal with it before the closing happens. We're the village. We can't get involved in private property transactions. It's not our job. I can't imagine that the transaction would have progressed this far if there's a right of first refusal and the appropriate notice was not given to the school district. Because when I represent clients who have rights of first refusal, before you even list the property, you send the refusal notice to the person who holds the right of first refusal. You wait the allotted time period contained in that right of first refusal, and then you sell the property. Given the length of time this property's been listed for sale, even if there were a right of first refusal, I find it inconceivable that it still exists and it hasn't been extinguished. McNaughton's a very sophisticated developer, and I personally know the broker of this property. He's a very sophisticated broker. They would not have let this transaction get to this point without that having been dealt with. So that's all I know.
Thank you for the explanation, Attorney Keating. I appreciate that. With the state, I mean, there's nothing by law that we can do, and I'm not going to subject the village to litigation on that part, so I would be with Trustee Lautner in supporting this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Trustee Stewart?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, firstly, I'd like to thank all the residents for coming out tonight. It is good seeing a lot of the seats filled. I also want to thank the village for their tireless work in the FAQ and all the other work that's been done during this development process. Yeah, I'm going to keep my comments very brief. It's a beautiful structure. I think it's a shame that it has to go down. I understand the historical significance of this building, but you know, we just have no recourse as a village here, and it's a shame to say that. So given all the information that we know right now, there's not much we can do. McNaughton is abided by all of the stormwater management codes, as well as the zoning codes in their development. So at this point, we have to move forward with this process, unfortunately. So I support the development.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Trustee Silva?
Thank you, Mr. President. I echo with Trustee Stewart and all my other fellow trustees. Thank you for everybody for coming out. I think that based on where we're at this point in time and everything that we've read and discussed, I think that the best action for us to take is to proceed with this, and I'm in full support of it.
Thank you, Trustee Silva. Trustee Council?
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stated at the earlier meeting at the work session, the McNaughton Development Group is extremely responsible. They've done a great job in the Heatherdale subdivision. We, as far as I'm concerned, we are putting the village in peril if we do not accept their proposal and grant them the plat of subdivision. I'm in full support of the subdivision, and I couldn't state enough how responsible the McNaughton developers have been, not only in their other projects, but here in the village of LaGrange Park as well. And I think to further that end, I would hope that the residents who have come out understand the spot that the village is in, and would truly appreciate that you're getting a good quality project and a good quality product. And I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't mean it. So, and thank you to all of the staff for all of their hard work, because I know it took an awful lot of time for them to put everything together that they have put together regarding this project. So thank you, Mr. McNaughton, and I look forward to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Council. I too would like to just thank staff. I thought those frequently asked questions were brainchild of you guys, and you did a great job in getting the information out to our residents. I want to thank all the residents for coming out tonight. I know you're disappointed. I'm disappointed because it's a beautiful building. It's our building. Change is inevitable sometimes, and if we could change it, we would. We can't. We could. Yes, we could. We could. But it's up to the board. So I want to thank Mr. McNaughton. Anybody's ever been to Heatherdale section of our village, they put that up. We worked with them extensively on that. Any questions, any problems, anything that arose during the construction, Julia and I sat down with Mr. McNaughton, and it was corrected immediately. So we look forward to 8 new families coming in. Mr. Masson, thank you for bringing that up, because we fail to look at the positive sometimes. I know the negative is we're losing a good building. Positive, we're getting 8 new families into our community. So with that, Megan, can you call the roll?
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
No.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
The motion passes by a vote of 5-1, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan, and I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you, Mr. McNaughton.
Thank you. Could I say something, Rick?
Yes, go ahead.
I apologize truly for the inconvenience this has caused the neighbors and the board. This is what I do for a living. Someone told me about the property. We did our due diligence, and that's why we're here. But I do want to thank staff that were wonderful to work with, everyone, engineering, public works, all of you, village attorney, and thank you, and I look forward to building a great little 8 lots and bringing in some nice residents.
Thank you, Mr. McNaughton. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Trustee Zora. Moving on to engineering capital projects, Trustee Stewart.
can I proceed with the report, or should I wait?
Wait 2 seconds here.
Megan.
She said to proceed.
Oh.
So go ahead. You can go ahead.
Oh, Megan's, even without Megan?
She said go ahead without. I'll take the next
Okay, all right.
Let's go.
We don't need her. No, I'm kidding. December report, correct. Engineering and capital projects report for December 2022. The village advertised the bids for the 2022-2023 sewer cleaning and televising program. Proposals for the project will be open on January 10th. After project award and contract execution, the contractor will begin work and should complete the project by the end of March. This is a yearly maintenance program to keep the sewers functioning at full capacity and also document sections that need repair. Design plans for the Central Area Sewer Separation Project are being prepared to submit along with the application to the MWRD Stormwater Partnership Program. Under this program, the MWRD can contribute funding for selected projects that address flooding and drainage issues within the community. The application is due January 13th, 2023. The village will file in the hope of receiving some matching funds for the project. MWRD award decisions are not expected until late spring, early summer. Lastly, design work has started for the 22-23 sewer repair program. This project involves point repairs on sewers located throughout the village that were identified by recent televising and cleaning projects. The sewer sections identified for repair represent isolated segments of sewers that need replacement. And that concludes my report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Moving on to public safety, Trustee Silva.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a police department summary for December 22 as follows. Total number of crimes reported in 2022 are 24% lower than those reported in 2021, with 324 reported in 2022 compared to 414 in 21. This decrease in reported crime has a direct correlation with a significant reduction in COVID-19 related fraudulent unemployment claims that are categorized under identity theft between 21 and 22. Overall, police activity was approximately 65% higher in 22, with 15,134 incidents reported throughout the year compared to 9,176 in 21. Self-initiated officer activity, including building, park, business, and residential checks, is a contributor to the increase. Traffic enforcement citations ended the year at 2,707, which includes parking, compliance, local ordinance, and state-issued citations. Police department staff took part in 2,075 hours of training, either in person or online. Several members of the department became certified instructors on specialty topics through the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. The number of contacts that the police department has had with juvenile offenders in 22 remains stagnant. The Grange Park Police Department will continue to utilize a multitude of programs throughout the year to assist with juvenile matters. Some of those programs consist of the Adopt a Cop program, Youth Outreach Services, and Child Advocacy Center, and Presence Healthcare Social Services Division, to name a few. The LaGrange Park Police Department continues to contract a part-time police social worker through Presence Health to assist us in following up with incidents and involve domestic issues, elder care, juvenile runaways, and mental health issues. Many special event and community-based programs will continue in 2023. National Night Out, Shop with a Cop, Citizen Police Academy, Coffee with Police Department staff, Illinois Special Olympic fundraiser events, along with many more programs, are eagerly waiting to get going. 22 continued to be a year of technological advancements for the police department. New right-of-way intersection cameras were purchased, Axon body-worn cameras were purchased and just implemented, and new cameras were purchased for the lockup facility within the police department. Please follow the police department on our Facebook page at LaGrange Park Police Department, our Twitter account at LaGrange Park PD, and Instagram at LaGrange Park PD. A friendly reminder about securing one's personal property at all times. Please lock your vehicles and residences, especially during overnight hours. Keep valuables properly secured and out of sight at all times. In addition, please be aware of any scheduled Package deliveries. If feasible, please request an in-person delivery, which requires a signature upon dropping off said package. Moving on to the fire report. Give me a second. This is the fire department summary of activities for December 22. EMS incidents this month, 156. There was a total of 1,769 in 22 compared to 1,723 in 21. Fire rescue incidents this month, 63. There was a total of 595 in 2022 compared to 533 in 21. Personnel assisted with delivering Santa to the village's tree lighting event. The Fire Department Foundation held its annual Santa brunch for children and families. 2 tires were damaged on our ladder truck. In evaluating the situation and existing conditions and age of the tires, it was decided to replace all 4. The Fire Department Foundation held its annual meeting, followed by an annual internal audit. A new budget was presented and approved with modifications. All appeared to be in order with the audit. The PLC firefighter applicants were hired after passing their background checks and medical exams. The fire department took delivery of our new pumper with some new equipment arriving. Also, new emblems and lettering were installed, and personnel began planning for the mounting of equipment. The annual Santa Parade and mobile food drive took place. Thanks to everyone who participated in both the parade and planning, we were able to deliver 3 trucks of food to St. Barbara and Westchester food pantries and Vets Plus. Captain Jim Gruska retired from his paid on-call captain position, which became effective 12/31/22. We thank him for his many years of service to the department and in his PLC capacity. He plans to continue working as a part-time inspector in fire prevention community risk reduction. PLC FF and EMT Tom Norvellis, who had just over 20 years of service, also retired from the fire department. We also thank him for his service and wish him and his family well. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Silva. Moving on to Public Works Committee, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Staff repaired 3 water main breaks in the month of December. The village leaf collection program concluded this month with at least 3 passes in each section of the village. Our contractor has hauled all leaves collected this season out of the dump. The remaining brush pile from this season was also grinded into mulch for next spring. Staff and contractors spent time clearing unwanted trees and vegetation at the village dump site this month. Garbage and debris were hauled away, and work to make the area fully functional and safe will continue. Winter operations took place on 3 separate occasions. Extremely cold temperatures at the month's end made achieving bare pavement on roadways much more challenging, but staff used all tactics and equipment to attain great results. Public Works participated in the Santa Parade and food drive. It was a great community event, which we were happy to be a part of. Thank you to all parties who dedicated their time to make this event happen. This month, we bid farewell to Clarence and Guion and wish him a happy and healthy retirement from our department. With over 28 years dedicated to the village, Clarence will be missed in so many ways, but we are sure we will still see him in regularly. Street patches and parkway restorations were completed, and from previous utility excavations, GIS work has continued collecting data on village-owned assets along with continued training throughout the village. Water meters were read in Section 3. 15 monthly bacterial water samples were taken. Various water and sewer work orders were completed, along with resident tree concerns and general construction inquiries. Routine maintenance of the department's fleet and equipment was performed, as well as with police and fire vehicles. Next, I have the 2022-2023 sewer cleaning and televising project. The staff is seeking the village board's approval to award a contract with National Power Rotting Corp. for the upcoming 2022-2023 sewer cleaning and televising project. General background: according to contract specifications, the sewer cleaning and televising program will clean and inspect designated sewer pipes, see attachments, The contractor will perform the described work at various locations throughout the village. Sewer maintenance is mandated by the MWRD and conducted annually by the village as a preventative maintenance measure. On January 10th of this year, bids were opened. 3 qualified vendors provided the service and the bids. National Power Routing was the lowest, $56,848.75. The engineer's estimate came in at $46,027.50. The fiscal year 2022-23 budget includes $50,000 in sewer fund services 510-70-62600 to clean and televise sewers. This fund can absorb the slight overage versus the budgeted amount. For the last several years, the village has enjoyed favorable pricing for these projects, but the bids were much higher than anticipated due to the higher economic trends. Included in the specification is the 24-inch stormwater sewer adjacent to the IHB Railroad that outfalls into Salt Creek. Some contractors were wary of bidding due to terrain issues accessing this sewer. In addition, determining the condition of the sewer is critical for the upcoming Central Area Storm Sewer Separation Project. Staff recommends approval of the contract with National Power Routing at tonight's meeting. Therefore, Mr. President, at this time, make a motion to approve a contract with National Power Routing Corp. for a not to exceed amount of $57,000 for the 2022-2023 sewer cleaning and televising program, and authorize the village manager to execute the contract documents.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know of 2 of the vendors that submitted bids that they've both done work for us in the past. National Sewer Routing's price is favorable, a little above the engineer's estimate, but today's scales of the economy are tipped that way that everything's much higher. The budget can absorb the overage, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Any other comments from any trustees? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
Now we have a presentation, the sewer rate review. The purpose is to provide the village board with a review of the current sewer rate and recommendations for potential adjustments. The village board approved a contract. The village board approved a contract with Hancock Engineering to provide services related to the lead service line and notification act. Hancock Engineering and village staff have reviewed the 2017 sewer rate projection, analyzed the current sewer rate, and reviewed updates regarding possible future sewer rates for the village board's consideration. This presentation will provide an overview of the following: performance of the sewer rate as an enterprise fund since the water rate study was completed, an update on the analysis of the current water purchased and sold, review the impacts of meeting goals established in the rate study of future infrastructure needs as outlined in the rate study, and 4, a review of updated projected rates for discussion. And with that, I'll kick it over to 2 Marks and a Rick.
So, Mr. President and the board, we recently completed a look at our water rate the later part of last year, and we were looking at our sewer rate right now. Quick overview of the 2017 water and sewer rate study. It was done by Baxter and Woodman. Basically, our water rate is really driven by how much water we sell. Our fixed costs for maintenance and operation and capital improvements are spread over those costs of water. Typically, when we see the use of water decline, our water rate has to increase because those fixed funds have to be spread over a smaller unit. The opposite is also true. In 2017, when Baxter and Woodman did their study, they looked at water rates from 2012 through 2016, and there was a decline in the water occurring. The dark blue lines to the left on this chart kind of represent the actual readings that they had from 2012 through 2016. The light blue was their projected based on that slow decline that we were seeing in the amount of water sold. Also in the water rate study, they made several recommendations, a water and sewer study. The rates were formulated based on the trends of those water. They recommended rates were based on having a water capital improvement plan of $1 million to $1.4 million, and basically that water was going to be done as pay-as-you-go. The village followed the recommended rates from 2018 and 2019. In 2020 and 2021, COVID was in place, and the village kept the rates in place at those 2019 rates, worried about the impact to the residents and the uncertainties of what would be happening with the water. We did an analysis of looking at the water consumption after that point. The trend did not follow the decline, and actually in 2019, a water meter was found to not be reading correctly at Plymouth Place, and that water meter was replaced. We saw a significant increase in the amount of water being consumed at that period of time, up approximately about 22% over what had been projected. So these water rates that were adopted in 2018 and in 19, well, if it had been had followed that decline, we probably would have been reducing the amount of reserves. We were selling more water at those rates, so it helped offset the increased cost of the water that we purchased, also offset the increases in operations and maintenance that the village had over that same time period. So we did a quick water rate review. This is just recapturing what we had already talked about. Your water rate actually performed fine, even with those freezing those water rates. Our water rate in 2022-23, for instance, we have $11.50. The actual needed cost to cover everything was $11.34. So you're kind of starting off at a good spot right now. That $11.50 rate is not too high, and it certainly is not considered low. So there's no real makeup you have to do to get back up to a water rate that can sustain the system and the improvements that you have. On the sewer side, we looked at the same thing on sewer. On the sewer, we only have our maintenance and operations, our capital infrastructure, and there's a debt service that we have for the bonds that we have out for previous sewer repairs. Again, we looked at what these water rates looked like over time. You have a current rate of $2.95. The sewer really hasn't kept up as well as the water did. As you can see, our cost varied from $3.04 up to $3.69. I will say in 2021 and 2022, some of those increased costs were related to the increase in the sewer backup prevention program. You guys added another $25,000 in those 2 years for the increase in demand for assistance in that program due to the flooding that was experienced in May of 2020. And also in the sewer rates were frozen at the time period. Also in 2021 and 2022, reflects the cost that you put into putting together shelf-ready plans for that central area storm sewer separation. So you could be in a position as funds become available and grants become available to actually have a shelf-ready project ready to be submitted. We looked at the water and sewer rate projections going forward. As we looked at the water rates, the things that we looked at, as we previously talked about, was your capital work. We did look at your reserves that you have. You currently have more than enough to meet the $950,000 that is recommended for your reserves in the water fund. We looked at the lead service line replacement that we're going to be incurring, which was $145,000 a year. Those are just for the emergency repairs, and continuing your $1.2 million a year capital improvement program. Again, those rates we looked at and we discussed how they would project out the first 4 years, kind of considered just the lead service line replacement as part of the water rate. And when we get to 2027, we have a bigger decision to make as to how the $503,000 a year program will have to adopt to start eliminating lead service lines. What's the best way to go about that, and what other opportunities might be out there for funding? But that's in 2027. It was just projecting out potential impacts over those 5 years. We did the same thing for your sewer rate. We looked at what you already have inside your sewer rate. You have a smaller capital improvement program of about $400,000 a year. Those are in the sewer repairs, cleaning and televising that you do. We also looked at your regular maintenance and operations. One of the things we did check was that the reserves that are required due to your bond, as well as the recommended 25% in reserves for your sewer, were also being held. We looked at those over time, and that reserve amount was still being met. So again, I think that was borne out in the financial report that you heard tonight too, that you do have sufficient reserves in the system. The one future cost that's sitting out there is the central area storm sewer separation, the relief sewer for that area, and how to go about it. That's an $11 million project. As stated earlier, there was an application made through the MWRD Stormwater Partnership Program, looking for assistance on that program. We'll see what is the result of that. We've looked at other, worst case scenarios, such as borrowing the money through the IEPA low interest loan program. And in that case, we look at it as what would be the worst case if we had to borrow all the money. That's a 20-year payback on that program. It is a lower interest than what you usually see in bonds, about half the rate of what you'd see on a bond issuance. The cost of that kind of a program, though, you're looking at $645,000 a year for 20 years, and that's a significant payback. If the village were to proceed with a loan, if we didn't have success through the MWRD partnership program or other sources of funding, and you decided to move ahead with it, the earliest you could really start a project right now would be in the fall of 2024, would be the earliest that you would be breaking ground on a project, because we would need to get in position for that kind of funding, to have a report filed, and we would be able to actually make our first application for those funds in the spring of 2024. So we looked at the water rate or the sewer rates for the project and the impacts for 2023 and the 2024 budget years. There is a slight increase that we think we need to do. We already know that the sewer fund is not supporting where we're currently at. So we looked at increasing those rates to cover, again, the costs that we need to just cover the normal capital improvement programs that we would have. In looking at these rates, we looked at the current rate of $11.50 and $2.95. That's a combined rate of $14.45. Currently, for your minimum 600 cubic foot of water consumed for residents, that's $86.70 a quarter. For 2023, we're looking at increasing that water rate by about 90 cents. Most of that, again, is associated with covering the slight increases in operations and maintenance that are being projected, but also covering that lead service line replacement costs that we're going to incur just for emergency repairs. We looked at the sewer rate, increasing that from $2.95 to $3.25 for a total rate of $15.65 when you combine the two of them. Again, that gives you an increase on the minimum side to about $93.90. And you see about an increase of $17 a quarter for your average user. In 2024, again, we would see an increase in the water rate. Again, we're using a projection right now of about 5% on the cost on maintenance, operation, and capital improvements. The sewer rate, we would see go up again slightly based on those same projections to $3.35 with a combined rate of $16.30 at that time. The increase to $97.80 for a minimum user and to $228.20 a quarter for your average user. The big issues of
lead service line replacement to $503,000. Believe every other year approaching this is an appropriate review your rates at that time instead of on a 5-year increment and setting a schedule at this time for 5 years out, because there's a lot of unknown. What's the eligibility and opportunity for funding under the Lead Service Line Replacement Act? What will be out there for the village? That can be changing in time. Also, the funding opportunities for the central area storm sewer separation. If we do get grants for part of what that cost is, what are the other resources we can use to come up with the village's portion if we need to? So in about 2 years' time, I think you want to, again, take a good look at that rate to see what you need to do going forward, especially as we head towards 2027, which would be the beginning of the lead service line replacement program. So with that, are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Trustee Laudner?
I guess a question I would have is, are you aware of current conversations at the state level for funding of the lead service replacement? I mean, where that might stand? Jim, Julia, Mark, I don't know if you're aware of where those conversations might be. Rick?
So there's a committee right now that's formed that is reviewing kind of how the Lead Service Line Replacement Act is running. Their next meeting is actually this week, January 25th. Okay. They've broken down into several smaller committees. One of the items they are talking about at this next meeting is the cost for the lead service line and how to equitably distribute the funds that are coming into the state of Illinois to communities that need it. So far, the background has been tying some of that to the median household income of communities based on affordability, what communities can afford it, what communities can't. But it's been in a little bit of a flux as to where that relief, any kind of relief, can be gotten by any community. Certainly before this time, the money that the state had used for the relief, of debt relief, had been more wide open in its application. But the new federal funds are pretty specific of what they're trying to aim at, is a little more on the equity side of things. As far as will there be changes? I mean, their final report is due at the end of this summer to the legislators to let them know what they see in the application of the act and what kind of adjustments may be needed in the system. So I know there's other talks at IML kind of reporting on the same issue, but.
I think it was a perfect summary. Yeah. I think that at this point, our concern is that the funding that is out there moving forward after the loan forgiveness program, that our concern is that we're probably not going to be eligible. That's the information that we've received, but as soon as that definition comes in and those rules come in for how that money will be operationalized, we'll have a better sense of that. But certainly the village did provide its letter from the village president on this issue, outlining all of our concerns. They have it, they used it, they talked about it in Springfield. So our voice was heard, and where it goes from there is anybody's guess. But I think we'll know in the next month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mark, so 8 days ago, Illinois EPA announces $4 million loan forgiveness for the water, the lead service replacement for the city of Sycamore. So that would look pretty nice for us. Mm-hmm. You know, anything would, but $4 million for Sycamore, that's a lot of money.
So that was based on the previous program that was available. You know, they're announcing that actually those were funded, they were on the intended funded list and approved in last year. So their last fiscal year. So those are funds that were currently not there. There's new federal funds coming in, but they have different strings attached to them.
Yeah, it was interesting because before that report came out 8 days ago, they were only going to get about $1.6 million in loan forgiveness, and now it's over $4.1 million. So that's
So what you'll see is as other communities aren't able to fulfill, they start reprogramming that money because they have to spend that money down. So they start reprogramming it into other projects that might already be approved. It's just a way for them to increase those.
I know you and staff will do everything to bring some of that pie home, so.
Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely going to try.
Thank you.
Rick, do you have any comments?
No, Mark did a wonderful job.
Okay,
He's been working
anybody
on it
else?
for a while.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
You too, Mark.
Did you see that? That's marketing. Did you see
That's
that?
all I have,
Okay,
Mr. President.
thank you, trustee Sheehan. Moving on to Finance Committee, trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple items this evening. First of all, the financial update as of the end of December 2022. Performance through that point. We've completed 8 months of fiscal year 2023, into the fiscal year 2023, which began May 1 and concludes on April 30th, 2023. General fund revenue is at 63.7% of the annual budget of $10,575,350, which is $6,733,694. To date, the village has collected approximately $858,350 in property tax revenues versus a budget of $3.8 million. By comparison, the village received $1.8 million in property tax revenues as of December 31st, 2021. The majority of the property tax revenue we received was in the month of December, and we anticipate further revenue through January. The lag in property tax revenue is due to the county's delay in issuing the second installment of property tax bills. The county eventually issued the tax bills in December and were due December 30th, 2022, as most of us can attest to, I think. Utility taxes are higher by $66,593, or 20.1%, due primarily to an increase in natural gas tax receipts as prices have increased. Despite the challenging economy, state sales tax revenues are slightly up, $18,036 year over year at $613,394. State income tax revenues have increased $247,475, or 20.2%, to $1,471,956. And personal property replacement tax revenue is at $52,364, higher than a year ago. Permit receipts are up almost $548,067 compared to prior year. Charges for services are higher by about $99,049, or 15.8%, mainly due to increased ambulance fee receipts. Fines are down about $29,000, or 29.4%. 2/3 through the fiscal year, total general revenue expenditures are $6,552,994, which is approximately 65% of the total budget expenditures of $10,772,315. Expenditures for all departments are within expectation midway through the fiscal year. And that concludes my financial report, and I believe I have one item for discussion action. The village is required by state law to engage a licensed public accountant or accounting firm to perform an annual audit. In 2016, the village board selected BKD as the village's auditor following a request for proposals process. BKD merged with Dixon Hughes Goodman effective June 1 of 2022, and the new corporation of Forvis has now completed the audit for fiscal year 2022 and provided the village with an unmodified opinion, which is the desired outcome of an independent audit. An unmodified opinion means that the financial statements are presented fairly and no exceptions were noted, which would possibly result in material misstatements of the financial information provided. Marvin Salazar from Forvis was here this evening and presented the annual comprehensive financial report to the village board at our meeting this evening. Staff has recommended that the village board accept the fiscal year 2022 annual comprehensive fiscal report at tonight's meeting, and I think I made comments that supported it as well. So I'd like to submit a motion to accept the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending April 30, 2022.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion, trustee Lautner.
I think we commented on it earlier in this evening. I think it was a very comprehensive audit, that's for sure. in earnest and confirmed with staff that it was at the level of detail that it really was a extensive definition of how this village operates and all the different types of accounts. So it was a very thorough job, that I'll say. So yes, I would heartily support it.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan.
And that concludes the information and motions from the Finance Department this
Thank you,
evening.
Trustee Lautner. Okay, moving on to other reports. Our village clerk,
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
our village treasurer, our village engineers.
No report, Mr. President.
Engineers, you're still number one, Mark. Village attorney.
No report, Mr. President.
Okay, commercial revitalization committee, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just commercial revitalization report for December. Well, actually, this current month. Andy's Frozen Custard, the new frozen custard restaurant, or what do you call it a restaurant? Located on 531 North of Grange Road, open on January 18th. Store hours will be Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Stay tuned for details on the grand opening event taking place this spring. Streetscape improvement plan, the Village Market Streetscape improvement plan is in the final phase of development. This plan will present a vision and recommendations for public improvements that establish a safer, more inviting environment along LaGrange Road and throughout the Village Market. Village staff anticipates presenting the draft plan to the CRC committee in February. That leads me to the next CRC committee meeting that will take place on the 14th, as mentioned, at 6 p.m. in Village Hall. Businesses and members of the public are invited to attend and provide input on how the village can best support new and existing business and enhance the commercial areas of LaGrange Park. Lastly, Run for the Roses. The LaGrange Park Chamber of Commerce will be hosting Run for the Roses, a 5K race for runners and walkers on Mother's Day, Sunday, May 14th. Stay tuned for more information about the race, registration, and sponsorship opportunities. And that concludes my report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Motion to approve committee and collectors' reports as presented.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I just have a couple things. One, I attended the inauguration for our speaker. It was a great experience. He was glad that we had representation down there, and he looks forward to working with us. He helped us already immediately, as I mentioned last meeting with Andy, so we look forward to more good things from not only Representative Ford, but also from Representative Welch. I do have to apologize, though. Part of my responsibility up here as the president is to protect residents, board, staff, people in our community when people get up to the mic. While there was no malintent, I know, obviously Bill from Bill's Place felt very hurtful that I would allow a speaker to get up there and say things that they said. So I want to personally apologize to Bill's Place and also to Matone's. And hopefully in the future I'll be more cognizant of the fact that we're up there to say constructive things, not destructive things. So again, I apologize if I've offended anyone. So moving on to public participation. Anyone care to address the board that's still here? You just love being here, don't you? Any new business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.